Ask anyone who's spent their life in the Ozarks, and they'll tell you these hills only look gentle. The float trips and the cabins are the postcard. What the locals know is that some of what lives here would stop you cold if you knew it was 15 feet away while you read the trailhead sign. Today, we're counting down the 11 most dangerous animals in the Ozarks, ranked not by how much harm they can do, but by how completely they've slipped out of the picture you carry of those hills. Some you could learn to avoid if you knew where they were, but the worst of them don't wait for you to keep your distance. From the ones lying right under your feet to a ghost cat the state swears isn't there. Number 11. The Copperhead. We start with the snake you've most likely already walked past. The Osage Copperhead lives across most of the Ozarks, and it accounts for more venomous bites than any other snake in Missouri, while almost never killing anyone. That's the whole point of it. Its copper and hourglass banding dissolves into a bed of dead leaves so perfectly that people stand a foot away and only see the forest floor. It doesn't rattle. It doesn't run. When a person walks near, its first strategy is to simply freeze and trust you won't notice, and most of the time, you don't. The young are born already armed with a hunter's trick of their own. A bright, sulfur yellow tail tip they twitch like a worm to draw frogs and lizards into range. When the bite comes, it's rarely worse than a few bad days. Missouri has recorded only a handful of snake bite deaths from any species in its modern history. And that mildness is exactly why a whole region has quietly stopped watching the ground. Number 11 sets the rule for everything else on this list. The most successful animals in these hills are the ones you're standing next to without knowing. Number 10. The Bobcat. With the red wolf and the cougar gone as resident predators, the bobcat has quietly become one of the top hunters left in the Ozarks, and almost no one ever sees one. It's about twice the size of a house cat. It works the brushy seams where a field meets forest, and it can live at surprising densities while staying essentially invisible. It moves at dawn and dusk, keeps to cover, and is gone before your eyes resolve the shape. It lives mostly on rabbits and rodents, but a big bobcat will take prey far larger than itself, including deer fawns, and it works a hunting circuit of several square miles, crossing the same ground night after night. When someone does glimpse one, they'll swear a big exotic cat got loose from somewhere, because a wild predator holding a hunting circuit through the woods behind the house doesn't fit the postcard. But it's there, watching trails you walk every week. Number 10 is the ghost at the top of the food chain. Number 9. The striped bark scorpion. Most people have no idea the Ozarks have scorpions at all, and yet turn over enough flat rocks on a dry, sun-baked glade in southern Missouri or the Arkansas hills, especially after dark with a black light, and you'll find them glowing green pale, sometimes every few steps. This is the only scorpion in Missouri. A pale yellow-brown animal a couple of inches long with a dark triangle on its head. Its sting is genuinely painful, but the venom is mild. For most people, closer to a bad wasp sting than an emergency. What is strange is why it's here. These scorpions arrived roughly 8,000 years ago, when the climate was hotter and drier and desert pushed east across the continent. When the wet forest returned, they didn't leave. They held on in the dry, rocky glades, little islands of a vanished desert scattered through the green. No one is entirely sure why they glow. The fluorescing compound is built into the shell, and the guesses run from detecting moonlight to confusing prey. But there's no doubt how tough they are. The striped bark scorpion can go months without a meal and ride out a hard Ozark winter under the same rock it never really leaves. Number 9 is a survivor from a world that's gone, hiding in the hilltops. Number 8. The Cottonmouth. Now the swimming hole. Along the slower, warmer streams and sloughs of the southern Ozarks and down into Arkansas lives the western cottonmouth, the water moccasin, and it has a completely different temperament from the copperhead. Where the copperhead freezes and hopes, a cornered cottonmouth stands its ground. It throws its head back, gapes open a mouth lined with startling white, and holds the pose as a warning. It swims with its thick body riding high on the surface, and contrary to the thing everyone insists is impossible, it can bite underwater. Its venom is hemotoxic, stronger than a copperhead's, the kind that breaks down blood and tissue. Most of the harmless water snakes people panic over and kill aren't cottonmouths at all. You can tell the real thing by its blocky, wedge-shaped head and its cat-slit eyes, and by the way it holds its ground, instead of racing off. And its young, like the copperheads, wear a yellow tail tip to fish a meal in close. But the real thing is down there, basking on a log over the exact green pool where you cool off in August. Number 8 has been sharing your swimming hole the whole time. Number 7. The 9-banded armadillo. This one seems almost comic. The little armored animal you see dead on the highway shoulder, blinking around in the bush like something that wandered up from the tropics. And it did. Armadillos have been marching north out of Mexico for over a century, and they're now regulars across Arkansas and the southern half of Missouri, in a country they didn't occupy a couple of generations ago. They're strange in almost every way. A female gives birth to identical quadruplets from a single egg, and a startled armadillo jumps straight up into the air, which is exactly why so many end up dead under a car that would otherwise have passed right over them. Here's the part that stops people. The 9-banded armadillo is the only wild animal in the Americas known to naturally carry the bacterium that causes leprosy, Hansen's disease. In Arkansas, a cluster of human cases has been tied to armadillo contact, and Missouri recorded its first homegrown case a few years ago. Now the honest context, because it matters. The risk is genuinely low. The disease is treatable, and most people are naturally immune. But the fact stands. There's an animal rooting through the Ozark yards at night that carries one of the oldest feared diseases in human history. Number 7 is the friendly-looking neighbor with a medieval secret. Number 6. The brown recluse. Hey, we're at the halfway point, and if you're still here, you clearly want to know what's really sharing this country with you. So if you haven't yet, this is the moment to subscribe, and I want to know which corner of these hills you're watching from. Missouri, Arkansas, Oklahoma? Drop it in the comments, because from here up, these are the animals that people flatly refuse to believe are real. And this one you already know by name, because the Ozarks are its true home. Missouri and Arkansas sit at the dense core of the brown recluse's range, and unlike its reputation, the spider itself is small, plain, tan, marked with a faint violin shape. Its venom doesn't attack the nerves. It kills tissue, and a bad bite can open into a slow ulcer that takes months to heal. But here's what tells you everything about how this animal lives. In one Arkansas home, researchers collected 2,055 brown recluses over 6 months, and the family living there had gone years without a single bite. The recluse earns its name. It's in the storage box, in the attic, the stack of firewood, in numbers you can't imagine, wanting nothing to do with you. And here's what clears its name. Across most of the country, the recluse is blamed for wounds it couldn't have caused, because it doesn't even live there. Track down thousands of so-called recluse bites, and the real culprits turn out to be infections and other conditions entirely. The spider itself can survive months without a meal. Number 6 is the ghost with the worst reputation and the quietest habits. Number 5. The feral hog. Somewhere in the rugged backcountry of the Mark Twain National Forest, a group of wild pigs is tearing a hillside apart in the dark. Feral hogs aren't wildlife. They're the descendants of escaped and illegally released domestic and Eurasian pigs. And in the Ozarks, they've become destructive enough that Missouri treats them like a disaster. The state runs a standing elimination partnership built on an incident command structure, the same kind of setup used for hurricanes, and in a single recent year, crews removed more than 10,000 of them. A big boar is heavily built, armed with tusks, active mostly at night, and willing to charge when cornered. They root up entire glades and stream banks, eat almost anything, including fawns and ground nest eggs, and can carry dozens of diseases. And they spread, not by wandering, but because people keep hauling them into new country to hunt. They breed faster than almost anything their size. A single sow can raise 2 litters a year, which is why managers say you have to remove roughly 2/3 of a hog population every year just to keep it from growing. Number 5 is the animal we're quietly at war with, moving through the dark on the far ridge. Number 4. The Lone Star Tick. This is the one you're most likely to actually carry home and never feel arrive. The Lone Star tick is the most common tick across the Ozarks, and it's a delivery system for things science is only beginning to understand. Unlike the ticks that sit and wait, the Lone Star tick is a hunter. It senses your breath and your body heat and crawls toward you, and all three of its life stages will bite a human, so one misstep into a wrong patch of grass can leave you covered in hundreds of pinhead-sized larvae at once. It spreads ehrlichiosis and tularemia. Its bite can rewire your immune system into alpha-gal syndrome, a sudden, sometimes permanent allergy to red meat, triggered by a sugar in the tick's saliva, so that beef, pork, even dairy and some medicines can send you into a reaction for the rest of your life. And this exact region is where the newest thread surfaced. Heartland virus was discovered in 2 hospitalized Missouri men in 2009, and Bourbon virus was identified in 2014 after a man in Bourbon County, Kansas, right at the edge of these hills, was bitten and died. Both are so new that there's no cure, only supportive care. A creature the size of a poppy seed climbs onto you from a blade of grass on the gravel bar, and 2 weeks later, something in your blood is not the same. Nearly everything on this list hides from you. This one hides on you. Number 4 is the smallest thing in these hills, and the most likely to quietly change your life. Number 3, the alligator gar. Slide under the surface of the big Ozark rivers, the White, where it pours down out of the Boston Mountains, and you may be sharing the water with a genuine living fossil. The alligator gar is the largest fish in Arkansas and the largest freshwater fish in the southeastern United States. A broad, armored, prehistoric-looking predator that can pass 8 feet and 300 pounds, with a long snout and 2 rows of teeth. Its lineage reaches back to the age of dinosaurs, and it barely changed ever since. It survives where other big fish can't, gulping air at the surface through a lung-like swim bladder to ride out the warm, stagnant, oxygen-starved backwaters that would kill a bass, and its body is sheathed in interlocking, enamel-hard scales so tough that native peoples once used them as arrowheads. It doesn't hunt people, it eats fish, but a big one will occasionally launch its whole body clear of the water, and there are old accounts of breaching gar capsizing boats. Many people believe these leaping giants are the real source of the White River monster, the creature that panicked the town of Newport, Arkansas in the 1930s and drew crowds trying to net it. Number 3 is the river monster that turned out to be real, cruising under the canoe you floated last summer. Number 2, the black bear. Most people are stunned to learn that there are bears in the Ozarks at all, and the story of how they came back is one of the strangest in American wildlife. 200 years ago, Arkansas was called the Bear State, thick with them. By the 1950s, unregulated hunting had cut the population to perhaps 50 animals in the entire state. So wildlife officials made a trade. Bass and wild turkey sent north in exchange for the bears. And between 1958 and 1968, they quietly released around 250 black bears from Minnesota and Canada into the Ozark and Ouachita Mountains, mostly without telling the public. From that handful, the population has climbed into the thousands across Arkansas, Missouri, and Oklahoma. A big male can weigh well over 300 pounds, run 30 miles an hour, and climb faster than you'd believe. Attacks are genuinely rare, but a bear that learns to raid coolers and trash cans loses its fear, and a bear without fear is a different animal. By late autumn, it eats almost around the clock, packing on the fat to carry it through a winter denned up in a hollow tree or a rock crevice, and as the population keeps climbing, these bears are pushing east and north into country that hasn't held one in living memory. Number 2 is a giant that was gone, brought back in secret, and living in numbers no one ever told you about. Number 1. The mountain lion. Officially, it isn't here. The last native cougar was gone from Missouri by the 1920s, and the state still lists the animal as extirpated. No confirmed breeding population, no resident cats. And yet, since the mid-1990s, wildlife agencies have confirmed well over 100 mountain lion encounters in Missouri, most of them in the rugged southern Ozarks, verified by photos, tracks, DNA, and trail cameras. The genetics tell a strange story. These are mostly young males, dispersing east out of the western states, walking hundreds of miles alone through the night, until they reach these hills. One of them made the point unforgettable. A cougar killed on a Connecticut highway in 2011 was matched by DNA to a population in South Dakota, more than 1,000 miles behind it, one of the longest journeys ever recorded for a wild land mammal in North America. What Missouri has never confirmed is a breeding female. Until one turns up, every one of these cats is just passing through. A large one can weigh over 200 pounds, and it leaves almost no trace. Officials confirm only a fraction of the reports, and every year a few more come in. A deer kill here, a grainy camera frame there. It hunts by ambush and moves in silence, and it has almost certainly stood closer to a person in these hills than anyone will ever know. Every animal on this list has learned to go unseen. This one has made an art of it. Number 1 is the ghost these hills swear doesn't exist, still walking back in on the trails you hiked last week. So here's what this list is really about. Not fear. The Ozarks are some of the oldest, most beautiful country on the continent, worth every float trip and every mile of gravel road. It's about the distance between how gentle these hills look and how much they actually hold. Old, quiet, worn-down places don't advertise what they're hiding. The Copperhead is still in the leaf litter beside the trail. The scorpion is still glowing on the glade after dark, a leftover from a desert that dried up 8,000 years ago. And somewhere under the surface of the White River, a fish that watched the dinosaurs die is still rising through the green water, while up on the ridge, a cat that officially doesn't exist is watching the hollow it knows better than any map. The Ozarks wear their danger the way they wear everything else, slowly, patiently, folded into all that green until you'd never know it was there. Which of these were you standing next to and never knew? Tell me in the comments. And if you want to see the country the rest of America has been told is safe, stay close, because the next place we're going hides even more.